video, we will learn some useful tips regarding the data validation. Let us first understand what is data validation. As you know that as an Excel user, when you open a worksheet, you can write anything inside a cell, which might have some meaning or which is not a useful thing for some user or some other users. So it's create a garbage. So garbage in and garbage out concept, right? So if I write anything inside a cell, it will accept it cannot create a validation rule for us to distribute paste on any kind of input by a user, right? So a user can write anything which might have a meaning or wait, which might does not have any kind of meaning or unnecessary things. So to restrict the user based on certain conditions in Microsoft Excel, we use the data validation technique, so that the user who is entering the data in the spreadsheet must follow some rules in order to meet the certain criteria and give the clean data or required data only. Okay, so for this purpose, we use the data validation. So I have some scenarios in this particular spreadsheet and we will solve it one by one. And you can analyze that what kind of data validation rules you can apply at your end as well. And I hope that you find this video helpful. So the first data validation criteria which we will discuss is we will restrict the cell G4 so that the user can only enter a value between 1 to 10. So to enter a data validation, we have to go to the data tab, and in the data tools group, you will find a small icon for the data validation. So click on that. When you click on data validation, a dialog window will appear, and here you can see there are three tab settings: input message and error alert. So go to data validation. In the settings, we will select here whole number, and in the data, you select between. You can explore more criterias later on, like not between, equals to, not equals to, greater than, less than, and so on. But now in this situation, we will have a between criteria and we want to restrict a user between 1 to 10. So in the minimum, I have defined 1 and the maximum it's 10. Okay. And when the user write, let's suppose if he writes his name, he is not following the rules. If we write 5 here, the cell will exit because the rules allow him to do so. If you write a big number, it will not allow. Okay. Another thing is that in the data validation, we can also define a message for that user as well. Like, please input any value between 1 to 10. And further, we can also describe style in the error alert. There are three different styles: stop, warning, and the information as well. Okay, so I will go with the top style, and I can further say that the call at my number or any other instruction you would like to give. So if a user follow it or if a user does not follow it, it will show it accordingly. The next is enter a number only. So let's do it quickly. Data validation, and let's say whole number. You can go with the decimal as well if you would like to. In this situation, we are going with the whole number, and let's say should be less than 100. So a user is allowed to input a value less than 100. So if I write 99, it will accept. The next situation is how we can restrict a user to enter a date only in a cell, not any kind of other thing. So entering a date, we'll go to data validation, and from here we will select date, and we will go with the between criteria, whereas you will have many other different kinds of criteria available. So you can explore that as well. So I have already defined the start and end date in some other cells. So I will pick that. So minimum date is the 1st January 2025, which is in this column and the maximum date, which is 1st of March 2025. So if I write today's date, which is 7th of April 2025, so the cell will not allow because we have used the data validation. If I write any date between 1st of January to 31st of March, so for example, 2nd Feb 2025, so the cell accepts. The next situation is do not enter a backdate. We don't want users to allow to enter some previous dates or the back dates. For doing that, we will go to data, data validation, and here we will select date. And in the data dropdown, we will select greater than or equals to, and we will write a function here, which is a volatile function equals to today bracket open, bracket close, and I will press OK. So if I enter some previous dates, let's suppose yesterday was 6th of April 2025. So back dates now are not allowed. If I write today's date, for example, 7th of April 2025, so I can add today's or the future dates in this situation. The next situation is select from a list. So how we can create a drop-down list by the data validation? Very easy. We will go to data, data validation, and here we will select list. And in the source, we will define these age brackets, which I have already defined. So now you can see a drop down, a small arrow icon at the right side of a cell, and you can select any kind of a field from here, right? And the next situation is enter text of a given length. We want to restrict this particular cell so that the user can only add 7 characters or less than 7. Okay, it could be alphabets or it could be numbers or a mixture. So again we will go to data, data validation, and here we will select text length, and we will see that less than or equals to 7. So for example, if I write my name Shubham here, which is a definitely 7 characters, it is accepting. But if I write Shubham Patel, so definitely I am not following the rule. Now let's go to the special condition. So there are two special conditions. The first one is enter value only if date is in cell G6 is specified. So if in G6, you can see here in G6, I have highlighted with a different color. So if a cell G6 contains a date, then the user will be allowed to enter a value or a number or anything inside G11. Okay, so how to do that condition? So I will go to data, data validation, and this time I will go to custom and I will write a small formula here. So equals to this cell, which is G6, make it absolute, should not be equals to blank. So every time there should be a date. This means that it should not be equals to blank every time there should be a date. And also uncheck this ignore blanks field as well and press OK. So now if I write something here, so the cell accepts. But for example, if I remove or delete a date from G6 and I come back to G11 and I enter something here, so definitely the rule does not follow here. So it's restricting. So if I again go to that cell and I add any date, if I come back to the cell, so now it's allowing me to enter a specific thing. So this is based on a dependent cell where you can use data validation on certain criteria as well. The next is that in this special condition, enter G12 or H12 only. So we have two cells, G12 and H12, and we just want to basically use one cell at a time, not the both cells. So how we are going to do that? So we will select these two cells together first, then go to data, data validation, Again, we will select custom and we will define a formula here. So equals to count A, bracket open. We will select these two cells, make it absolute, should be less than 2, and I will say OK. So let's say if I write a name here, Excel, and if I write something here, Shubham, so it is not allowing me to enter anything. Or if I write something here, Excel, and if I go back to G12 and I write Shubham, it is not allowing me. So I can use one cell at a time between these two cells. Any one cell at a time in between these two cells. So I have restricted that with the data validation. The last situation is that do not allow duplicates. So we have almost 5 cells and we do not want to allow duplicates to be entered in this particular range. So for example, if I write my name Shubham, so at this point, this range is allowing me to enter duplicate values, whereas we want to restrict so that we do not add the duplicate values. So first thing is that we will select this range. Okay, so I will select these 5 cells. I will go to data validation, and I will go to custom, and I will define a formula here. Okay, so equals to count if starting cell is G14, column G14. So we will make this particular range dynamic. So the first cell will be absolute, second will be relative, and then in the countif, the next function argument is of criteria. So the criteria starts also from G14, and we will say that this every cell have a value and count that it should be equals to 1. Any value which is more than 1 would be a duplicate and it will restrict automatically. So I will press OK and let's start writing. Shubham, Patel, Piyush, Yogesh, Shubham. So it is not allowing me to enter the duplicate values, right? So this is how I restricted that. So far we have seen 9 different kinds of situations in the data validation tips and tricks. I hope you find this video wonderful and you will apply certain kinds of rules in your reports. But data validation is not limited here. You can create any kind of a rule based on a certain Excel formulas and functional logics, and you can define in custom formatting so that you can restrict the user to make sure that the user provides you the relevant data, not the garbage data. So that your time should not be consumed in data cleaning processes. Thank you.